On a cold day in mid-December 1940, military strategists gathered at Wehrmacht headquarters in Zossen to review their assessment of America's war-making potential. Colonel Walter Warlimont, serving as Deputy Chief of Operations, laid out what German intelligence had painstakingly compiled about American industry. The picture seemed clear. American manufacturing was oriented toward consumer products, the workforce had no experience building weapons, and the notion that women might fill factory roles was seen as a sign of desperation rather than strength. Intelligence reports documented that American military output was negligible, roughly 300 aircraft per month, barely 20 tanks, almost no military transport vehicles. The United States Army, numbering just over 250,000 soldiers, ranked 17th in the world, smaller than Romania's forces. These were the facts that German planners incorporated into their strategic calculations as they prepared for what they expected to be a long war. What those assembled officers couldn't imagine was that across the Atlantic, an unprecedented transformation was about to unfold. The American women they viewed as a liability would shortly be outproducing Germany's entire military-industrial complex on a monthly basis. Those factories they dismissed as unsuited for serious manufacturing would coordinate the largest industrial mobilization in human history. In less than 2 years, German intelligence analysts would find themselves staring at American production numbers that seemed to defy every rational prediction they had made. The industrial metamorphosis that was coming, powered largely by millions of American women entering the workforce, would contribute more to Germany's downfall than many battlefield campaigns. The Wehrmacht's planning in late 1940 was built on solid intelligence gathering. Their analysts had accurate information about American capabilities at that moment. Aircraft production genuinely averaged 300 units each month. Tank manufacturing remained largely experimental. Military vehicle output barely existed. The US Army fielded 269,000 soldiers with equipment that couldn't match European standards. These weren't exaggerations or propaganda. They were accurate assessments of America's military posture in 1940. Documents preserved in Germany's military archives show how thoroughly Wehrmacht economists analyzed American industrial capacity. Their calculations suggested that converting consumer-focused production to military output would take 3 to 5 years based on what they had observed in their own rearmament process. They noted that American factories ran single 8-hour shifts, workers insisted on weekends off, and labor unions resisted changes to productivity. The American contingency planning that included recruiting women for industrial work seemed to confirm weakness rather than reveal hidden strength. The German General Staff's conclusions reflected what they had witnessed in Europe. German rearmament, which had begun covertly in 1933, required 6 years to reach substantial military production levels. France's attempt to mobilize its industry in 1939 and 1940 had ended in disaster. British production, despite being at war for 18 months, remained constrained. These experiences shaped German assumptions about what America could accomplish. German analysts made their fundamental error by projecting European constraints onto American potential. They couldn't envision an industrial system capable of training millions of workers in weeks rather than years, constructing factories on empty land in months, or motivating workers through voluntary patriotic commitment. Most significantly, they couldn't conceive that American women without prior industrial experience would achieve precision manufacturing faster than Germany's trained workforce. The collapse of France in May 1940 triggered a shift in American industrial planning. With Britain standing alone against Germany, American industrial leaders began preparing for potential war. President Roosevelt's announcement calling for 50,000 aircraft annually initiated revolutionary changes in American manufacturing practices. William Knudsen, who led General Motors, accepted the position of Director of the Office of Production Management. His initial actions transformed American industrial culture in ways that seemed impossible in Germany. Competitors like Ford, Chrysler, Packard, and Studebaker agreed to share proprietary information, production techniques, and specialized equipment. In Germany, where industrial giants jealously protected competitive advantages, such cooperation was unthinkable. The automotive industry began conversion planning 18 months before Pearl Harbor brought America into the war. Detroit executives made critical decisions in June 1940 that would reshape modern warfare. They standardized parts across competing companies, shared specialized manufacturing equipment, and created programs to cross-train workers between facilities. Henry Ford, initially resistant to producing aircraft engines, reversed his position and declared that his company would learn whatever it didn't already know. At the same time, a social transformation was beginning to take root across America. Women started enrolling in welding programs, blueprint reading courses, and precision measurement classes entirely on their own initiative. By September 1940, thousands were preparing themselves for industrial work without any government recruitment campaigns or formal programs encouraging them. Training institutions reported unprecedented numbers of female applicants. The Bullard Havens Technical School in Connecticut, which had never previously admitted women, suddenly faced hundreds of applications from women seeking technical training. Similar patterns emerged throughout the country as women anticipated workforce requirements before official recognition of those needs. The Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, transformed American society in an instant. The assault unleashed industrial mobilization that exceeded every forecast. Within 2 days, employment offices across the nation were overwhelmed by volunteers, with women comprising the majority. The transformation at Boeing's Seattle plant illustrates the speed of change. On December 6, 1941, Boeing employed roughly 8,000 workers, predominantly male. By the first day of 1942, employment had doubled, with women making up most of the new workforce. 18 months later, by June 1943, Boeing would employ 45,000 workers, with women performing the majority of assembly operations. German intelligence, tracking American mobilization through neutral sources, initially dismissed the announced production targets as propaganda. The United States declared intentions to produce 60,000 aircraft in 1942 and 125,000 in 1943. German analysts, working in a nation that produced 12,000 aircraft annually, considered these figures impossible. What German observers failed to grasp was the revolution occurring in American industrial engineering. Frederick Taylor's scientific management principles, refined by Charles Sorensen at Ford Motor Company, had broken complex manufacturing processes into simple, repeatable tasks. Rather than training workers to build entire components, American factories trained them for specific operations. A woman might learn to drill 6 precise holes, install particular rivets, or attach specific cables. Hundreds of workers, each performing designated tasks, could collectively complete dozens of aircraft. By March 1942, American factories were achieving production rates that German analysts found incomprehensible. The Willow Run plant, which hadn't existed 12 months earlier, was approaching completion on March. 5 million square feet of what had recently been Michigan farmland. Designed to employ 42,000 workers producing B-24 bombers, it would become the world's largest factory contained under a single roof. German intelligence assessments from spring 1942 demonstrate systematic rejection of American production claims. Wehrmacht production specialists calculated that manufacturing a 4-engine bomber required a minimum of 4,000 skilled worker hours. American claims of eventually achieving 63-minute production intervals were dismissed as mathematically impossible. Yet at Willow Run, revolutionary production methods were achieving unprecedented efficiency. The facility operated as an enormous assembly line with bombers progressing through 1,600 workstations. Women performed most operations: drilling, riveting, welding, electrical installation. Using pneumatic tools unavailable in German factories, they completed assemblies in minutes that required hours using traditional methods. Rose Will Monroe, working at Willow Run, became one of several women who inspired the Rosie the Riveter cultural icon. Operating pneumatic riveters, she and her teammates completed fuselage sections in 45 minutes that required German workers 8 hours to finish. By April 1944, Willow Run was completing one B-24 bomber every 63 minutes during peak production periods. The plant would ultimately manufacture 8,685 B-24 bombers. The role American women played in war production contradicted Nazi ideology at its foundation. German doctrine held that women belonged exclusively in domestic roles. The concept of women building weapons wasn't merely considered impractical, it represented what Nazi ideology classified as racial degeneracy. Nevertheless, by mid-1942, American women were demonstrating extraordinary capabilities that defied these assumptions. At the Douglas Aircraft Plant in Long Beach, California, women comprised 40% of the workforce by 1943, achieving production efficiency that exceeded what pre-war male workers had accomplished through systematic training and improved methods. The Richmond shipyards in California employed 90,000 workers at peak production, with women comprising 27% of the total workforce and 41% of all welders. These workers produced Liberty ships in an average time of 45 days, with the SS Robert E. Peary completed in 4 days, 15 hours, and 29 minutes in November 1942. German shipyards required 300 days for comparable vessels. Women excelled in precision operations previously considered impossible for female workers. At the Sperry Gyroscope Company, women assembled bomb sights requiring tolerances of 10,000ths of an inch. Their steady hands and meticulous attention to detail exceeded standards that experienced craftsmen had achieved. Norma Jean Doherty, later known as Marilyn Monroe, worked at the Radioplane Munitions Factory from late 1944, inspecting parachutes and assembling target drones. She represented millions of women who entered factories without prior industrial experience, yet quickly mastered complex operations. By August 1942, American production was reaching levels that made German defeat mathematically inevitable. Aircraft production approached 4,000 monthly, matching Germany's quarterly output every single month. The United States produced more military trucks each week than Germany managed in a month. The U.S. Strategic Bombing Survey comprehensively documented the production disparity. In 1942, America produced 47,836 aircraft versus Germany's 15,409. By 1944, American production reached 96,318 aircraft, while Germany managed 40,593, despite implementing efficiency improvements. Tank production showed similar disparities. The Detroit Arsenal achieved production approaching 900 Sherman tanks monthly by December 1942. German tank production for all models averaged 500 monthly in 1942. America could replace losses faster than Germany could inflict them. Field Marshal Erwin Rommel experienced American material superiority directly in North Africa. His communications to Berlin throughout 1942 and 1943 repeatedly emphasized that German forces faced endless American supplies while German logistics struggled. American shipbuilding transformed naval warfare through unprecedented construction speed. Traditional shipbuilding methods gave way to welding, which women mastered quickly. Women welders replaced traditional riveters, substantially reducing construction time. Components were mass-produced and then assembled at unprecedented speeds. By May 1943, American shipyards were launching 3 Liberty ships daily, while U-boats averaged sinking 1 ship every 3 days. Admiral Dönitz withdrew submarines from the Atlantic, effectively conceding that American production had defeated the U-boat campaign. The Douglas Aircraft Plant in Santa Monica employed 44,000 workers across 3 shifts by 1943, producing 360 C-47 transport aircraft monthly, exceeding Germany's entire transport fleet production. Women performed not just assembly work, but suggested workflow improvements that increased efficiency. Their contributions boosted output while simultaneously improving quality through systematic refinements. American aircraft production achieved mass production volumes while maintaining what had been handcrafted standards. Every component underwent rigorous testing and inspection. Rejection rates remained lower than German facilities despite vastly higher production speeds. The Lockheed plant demonstrated that technologically advanced aircraft could be mass-produced. The P-38 Lightning, among the era's most complex fighters, was assembled primarily by recently trained women workers who built sophisticated aircraft matching German quality standards. The Detroit Arsenal began production in 1941 on 113 acres in Warren, Michigan. By late 1942, it was approaching 900 M4 Sherman tanks monthly, exceeding Germany's entire tank production. Women operated massive presses forming armor plates, precision lathes machining components, and overhead cranes moving 30-ton turrets. They mastered welding torches for joining armor sections and quality control procedures ensuring battleworthiness. German tank production faced fundamental limitations. The Tiger tank, individually superior, required extensive hand-fitting of components. Germany produced 1,354 Tigers throughout the entire war. America produced 49,234 Shermans. Numerical superiority overwhelmed qualitative advantages. General Heinz Guderian noted that captured American tanks demonstrated remarkable mechanical reliability and complete parts interchangeability. Every Sherman used interchangeable parts while German tanks required model-specific components. American mass production created maintainable weapons systems rather than temperamental individual machines. The Rock Island Arsenal demonstrated American production scaling capability. From 500 rifles monthly in 1940, production reached 5,000 M1 Garand rifles daily by 1943. German soldiers carried the Carabiner 98K, essentially unchanged from World War I. The firepower disparity multiplied throughout entire armies. Ammunition production showed similar advantages. The Lake City ammunition plant, staffed predominantly by women, produced 60 million cartridges weekly by 1943, exceeding Germany's monthly production. Aluminum production revealed the resource gap dramatically. Germany produced 250,000 tons in 1942, straining every available resource. America produced 920,000 tons, with expansion capacity remaining. Alcoa's Tennessee facilities, powered by TVA hydroelectric dams, employed women operating electric furnaces consuming enormous quantities of power. Each furnace produced sufficient aluminum daily for multiple aircraft. German aluminum shortages forced increasing use of steel and wood in aircraft construction, adding weight and reducing performance. American aircraft used aluminum extensively, improving range, speed, and payload, advantages that translated directly into combat superiority. American mass production achieved quality levels exceeding traditional craftsmanship through statistical quality control methods developed by Walter Schuhart and W. Edwards Deming. Consistency impossible with individual craftsmanship became routine in American factories. At Pratt & Whitney's Connecticut plant, women inspectors maintained standards exceeding German requirements. Every component underwent multiple inspections, ensuring complete interchangeability. Packard Motor Company, building Rolls-Royce Merlin engines under license, improved British designs through production engineering innovations. American-built engines exceeded original specifications while being produced at unprecedented rates. American war production depended on transportation networks moving materials with clockwork precision. Women played crucial roles throughout these systems, from railroad operations to logistics planning. Female railroad workers increased from 4,000 in 1940 to 104,000 by 1944. They operated switch yards, maintained tracks, and coordinated logistics operations moving millions of tons monthly. The Pennsylvania Railroad alone moved more freight daily than Germany's entire rail network. This efficiency meant American factories never stopped production due to material shortages. Raw materials flowed seamlessly to production facilities, while German factories frequently idled awaiting supplies, despite operating over shorter distances. American war production occurred alongside sustained civilian prosperity, while Germany faced increasing deprivation. Americans continued producing consumer goods throughout the war, while simultaneously outproducing Germany militarily. Germany devoted 70% of industrial production to war by 1943. American military spending never exceeded 40% of production capacity while achieving superior output. The difference was productivity. American workers achieved output levels unmatched anywhere through systematic efficiency improvements. Time motion studies, production refinements, and worker suggestions continuously improved efficiency. Women operating automatic equipment outproduced experienced male craftsmen through better designed processes. Their smaller stature proved advantageous in confined spaces, particularly in aircraft and shipbuilding. Their ability to work in restricted areas increased construction speed substantially. American submarine production exceeded German U-boat construction by 1943. American submarines were larger, more capable, and better equipped than their German counterparts. The vessels that devastated Japanese shipping were built by workers new to shipbuilding. Radar and electronics production showcased American manufacturing advantages most dramatically. At Raytheon, women assembled complex radar units in quantities Germany couldn't approach. American radar production reached thousands of units monthly by 1943. Every ship, many aircraft, and numerous ground installations had radar, while German forces possessed limited sets for entire operational sectors. Western Electric, employing predominantly women, produced 100,000 military radios monthly by 1944. American forces enjoyed communication superiority at every organizational level, from squad radios to strategic networks. The Holston Ordnance Works employed 40,000 workers, 70% of them women, producing RDX explosive. They produced more explosives in 1943 than Germany managed throughout the entire war. Safety procedures exceeded German standards despite handling dangerous materials. Women achieved better safety records through systematic procedures and comprehensive training while handling materials considered too dangerous for female workers under German assumptions. American artillery fired unlimited barrages, while German guns conserved shells desperately. The production difference originated in plants where women produced explosives in such quantities that conservation became unnecessary. Penicillin production exemplified American advantages in unexpected areas. From enough medication for 100 treatments in 1942, production reached sufficient quantities for 100,000 treatments monthly by 1944. German soldiers died from infections. American medics cured routinely. Surgical instrument production increased dramatically between 1941 and 1944. Women at Becton Dickinson and similar facilities produced medical supplies in quantities ensuring American wounded received treatment exceeding what German field hospitals could provide. Blood plasma production, organized through the Red Cross with predominantly female workers, saved countless lives. American wounded survived at unprecedented rates while German casualties faced persistent medical supply shortages. When Japan captured Southeast Asian rubber sources, America created synthetic rubber production from nothing. By 1944, facilities operated primarily by women produced 737,000 tons annually versus Germany's peak production of 110,000 to 120,000 tons. Chemical engineers developed processes that improved synthetic rubber beyond natural rubber for specific applications. Innovations were shared industry-wide, multiplying advantages. German vehicles failed due to inadequate tires, while American vehicles operated continuously. The production difference meant spare tires by the millions versus German tire rationing. The Quartermaster Corps documented that American forces became history's best-equipped military. Women in textile mills produced 100 million uniforms, 500 million pairs of socks, and 60 million boots. At parachute facilities, women sewed with precision where accuracy meant survival. Each parachute required thousands of precise stitches, achieved with minimal rejection rates. German soldiers faced Russian winters in summer uniforms, while Americans received specialized clothing for every climate. The difference originated in textile mills, where women produced proper equipment universally. Radio production demonstrated mass production mastery. Motorola's 14,000 workers, predominantly women, produced the SCR-300, the first FM portable military radio, at 50,000 units monthly by 1944. Every American squad had radios, while German companies shared single sets. Communication superiority built by women provided tactical advantages that compensated for experience differences. Bausch and Lomb's 9,000 workers, mostly women, outproduced Germany's entire optical industry, including prestigious firms like Zeiss and Leica combined. They produced binoculars, rangefinders, and bomb sights in unprecedented quantities. American forces had unlimited optical equipment, while German forces treasured individual pieces. Material superiority at every level originated where women exceeded traditional craftsmanship through systematic methods. American vehicle reliability resulted from spare parts availability. Women at Delco Remy and similar facilities produced components by the millions, spark plugs, batteries, generators, ensuring continuous operation. Every American vehicle carried spare parts that German vehicles lacked. Preventive maintenance became routine for American forces, while Germans cannibalized vehicles for parts. The difference multiplied operational readiness dramatically. American fuel production dwarfed German synthetic efforts. Women at Texas refineries produced 100-octane aviation fuel, providing performance advantages. German pilots operated with inferior fuel when any was available. American pilots trained without fuel constraints, while German training was severely limited by shortages. Experience differences originated in refineries, where women produced unlimited high-quality fuel. Captured German documents reveal the psychological impact of facing American material superiority. Soldiers' letters described overwhelming abundance that broke morale before battles began. German propaganda couldn't explain production reality to troops experiencing it firsthand. Every captured position revealed abundance, contradicting Nazi ideology. Soldiers stopped believing propaganda after encountering American material superiority repeatedly. Operation Overlord demonstrated production supremacy definitively. The invasion fleet's 5,000 ships and 11,000 aircraft were mostly produced in the previous 18 months by workers predominantly composed of women. German defenders faced material superiority that made resistance mathematically futile. 20 American shells answered every German shell. 50 American aircraft for every German plane. Courage became irrelevant against such overwhelming firepower. American divisions consumed 1,000 tons of supplies daily versus German allocations of 30 tons. The difference originated where women produced abundance, making sustained operations possible. While supplying Europe, America simultaneously fought across the Pacific with equal material superiority. Admiral Yamamoto had predicted 6 months of success before American industrial strength would prevail. He underestimated significantly. Essex-class carrier production exemplified American capacity. These 27,000-ton vessels were constructed in 20 months versus Japan's 4 years for comparable ships. America built 24 Essex-class carriers. Japan managed 6 fleet carriers throughout the war. Women at Newport News Shipbuilding built carriers using assembly line methods. Ships requiring individual craftsmanship elsewhere were mass-produced systematically. By 1944, American bomber production enabled 1,000-plane raids. The 8th Air Force alone operated more 4-engine bombers than Germany's total wartime production. Women at Boeing, Consolidated, Douglas, and North American produced 96,318 aircraft in 1944. Germany managed 40,593 despite implementing improvements. Air superiority's arithmetic was manufactured by American women. German intelligence consistently underestimated American production because their conceptual framework couldn't accommodate women as skilled workers. Social assumptions prevented understanding reality. Post-war analysis reveals systematic rejection of accurate intelligence reports. Analysts typically reduced reported figures substantially, believing actual production impossible with female workers. Field commanders knew better from direct experience. By late 1944, fuel shortages immobilized German forces, while Americans consumed fuel abundantly. German tanks sat idle for lack of fuel. American tanks operated continuously. Aircraft availability determined what operations were possible. American logistics delivered materials efficiently from factories to front lines globally. Women managed supply chains, moving millions of tons monthly to precise destinations worldwide. Supply differences were stark. American soldiers consumed 67 pounds of supplies daily versus German allocations of 4 pounds. Systematic production and distribution ensured nothing stopped for shortages. American replacement systems maintained unit strength continuously. Equipment losses were replaced immediately. Personnel losses were filled rapidly. German units degraded progressively, while American units maintained or strengthened over time. The training pipeline delivered soldiers continuously. Units rebuilt immediately after combat, while German formations never recovered strength once depleted. The Battle of the Bulge revealed supply superiority starkly. Despite achieving surprise, Americans were better equipped than German attackers who had months to prepare. American soldiers had complete winter equipment while Germans improvised desperately. Production planning anticipated needs systematically. American artillery fired concentrated barrages while German artillery conserved desperately. At ammunition plants staffed predominantly by women, America produced shells in millions, while Germany managed thousands. Communication equipment abundance enabled coordination impossible for Germans to achieve. Women produced military radios, ensuring every unit had multiple sets, while Germans shared individual radios across formations. American wounded survived at extraordinary rates through abundant medical supplies. Plasma, drugs, and surgical supplies were universally available, while German medical services faced constant shortages. The motorization difference transformed warfare fundamentally. America's 2.5-ton trucks, produced at 800,000 units, provided complete mobility, while German forces relied on deteriorating horse transport. Transport aircraft enabled sustained operations anywhere. Women at Douglas built 10,000 C-47s, transforming military logistics. Surrounded forces could be supplied indefinitely, while German encirclements meant inevitable surrender. Combat engineers had equipment providing enormous advantages. Bulldozers and excavators produced by women enabled rapid construction, while Germans used hand tools exclusively. Signals intelligence succeeded through machines mass-produced by women at NCR and IBM. Thousands of analytical machines multiplied human capability exponentially. Radar coverage was universal through mass production at Raytheon and Western Electric. Detection advantages negated tactical surprise systematically. American soldiers received comfort items regularly: cigarettes, candy, magazines, maintaining morale. German soldiers received nothing for months. Production supplied not just warriors, but sustained them psychologically. The contrast reinforced American advantages while undermining German resolve. Victory was manufactured as much as fought. Women at thousands of facilities across America created the material foundation making military success inevitable. Their transformation from housewives and students into skilled industrial workers occurred with breathtaking speed, contradicting every German assumption about workforce development timelines and female capabilities. American society mobilized voluntarily what dictatorships achieved through coercion and exceeded totalitarian production despite maintaining democratic freedoms and consumer prosperity. The women who powered this transformation Rose Will Munro at Willow Run, thousands at Douglas and Boeing, welders at Richmond shipyards, combined individual contributions to create the arsenal of democracy. Each represented millions whose work proved decisive to victory. American motivation and production methods achieved what German coercion couldn't approach. Women worked for victory, wages, and pride, achieving productivity through systematic training and continuous improvement that forced labor never approached. Production methods developed by women revolutionized global industry permanently. Breaking complex tasks into masterable steps originated where women proved traditional expertise unnecessary for achieving quality. American women's wartime role revolutionized society beyond any legislation could have accomplished. Their performance contrasted sharply with marginalized German women, demonstrating how pragmatism in utilizing all available talent defeated ideology restricting populations by gender. Mass production achieved quality exceeding traditional craftsmanship through systematic methods. Women produced equipment with precision that multiplied combat effectiveness through reliability. This story demonstrates timeless lessons about human potential and the dangers of ideological blindness. German military planners couldn't conceive that democracy would outproduce dictatorship, that women equaled men industrially, or that freedom motivated workers better than coercion. Their blindness to women's capabilities was symptomatic of broader ideological failures, ensuring defeat. They measured American potential by German limitations, dismissing as impossible what became routine within months. American women proved that victory belongs to societies utilizing all talents regardless of gender. When German generals dismissed American women workers in 1940, they unknowingly sealed their defeat. When those women produced more military equipment than the entire Axis combined, ideology confronted devastating reality. The final verdict was delivered by millions of American women who proved that freedom mobilizes productive power that tyranny cannot match. They built victory one component at a time, establishing foundations for the post-war world. Their legacy extends beyond military victory to demonstrating what becomes possible when necessity breaks artificial barriers that ideology creates. The women who transformed American factories transformed warfare itself, proving that underestimating half the population based on gender was not merely morally wrong, but strategically catastrophic.